Hey everybody, this is Tony, and I'm here today with a special guest, two of the lovely ladies from the Grammy-nominated Dove Award-winning group out of Eden, Miss Andrea and Miss Lisa. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for having us.
Of course, of course. Now, of course, Danielle is the third member, but she couldn't be here with us today, so please send her my best wishes, and hopefully we can get her next time.
Yes,
Will
indeed.
do.
I definitely want to talk about, the new single that you guys have, but let me just first give you guys your flowers and just say it's amazing to see you guys back for one, but to also see a girl group for one, and also have a group that, really just was themselves or are themselves because you're still here. So I just wanted to give you guys that first before we talk about anything. So
Thank
you
you.
have a new single, Lovely Day 3.0. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So what made you guys come up with this single and come back together at this point in time?
So we were all together
Hmm.
and we were like scrolling on Instagram, and a friend did a post about us that it was the 30th anniversary of the Love in the Day album.
Yeah.
And people kind of got on, commented on his post, and then we reposted, and people were like, "What are you gonna do? Oh my gosh!" And it just blew up before we knew it. And so we just kind of were talking like, what should we do? Should we do something? I don't know. What do you think? We should do something. And we decided, that we did want to honor our legacy. We did want to say thank you to our fans and people that have supported us over the years. And that's basically how the idea to celebrate our 30th came out. And then, of course, we wanted to go with the first song that we ever did, which was Lovely Day by
Yeah.
the great Bill Withers. And our thought was, if we release this song today, what would Out of Eden do with this song? How would we release it? And that's where you get the musical vibe and the different melody and all that kind of stuff. We wanted to bring it into, 2024.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me say, I do love the single that Afro beats feel. I love the single, and to see what you guys did with it. Of course, your original was a cover, but to see how you guys reworked this was just amazing, and it feels good. It feels at home.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you guys for that. What has the response been like for you guys after 30 years? What does that feel like to get the response that you've gotten so far?
It's been amazing. I think since we did end Out of Eden, like maybe 17-ish years ago, we've kind of been private citizens, working, raising kids, and so, here and there we would get, messages to like a fan page that one of our fans created, just letting people know how our music has impacted us. But it's been great to be back out, especially like our first time on social media for ourselves and getting these direct messages about just the way our music has blessed, people who have listened over the years. I think it's
Yes.
been a little overwhelming, honestly, because I sometimes I forget the journey that was Out of Eden because it has been so many years. But we went to the Dove Awards this last fall, and just seeing younger artists coming up to us and just talking about the influence that we made in their lives has been incredible. And yeah, it's been really really amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can only imagine, but it's just a testament of the work that you guys have done over these years. So if anything, find a way to receive it and don't shy away from it because it's a blessing.
Yeah.
At least
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
So I wanna just touch on what we're doing next. Are you guys planning to release some more music or album? What are we planning to do next?
Yeah, so, with this Lovely Day 3.0 was like the teaser, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Um, our goal, our hope and dream, and what, we are going to do is release a full EP.
Okay.
And the idea around it will be taking some of our bigger hits, also taking some of our deep cuts and reimagining and reworking those as well. Also adding a couple new songs.
Hmm.
So we're, in the works, working on that right now. And hopefully it'll make, spring 2025, early summer 2025. But it's a project that we are really excited about. Like, can't wait.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. I think the world is excited. You guys have built a pretty good fan base, and even after being gone for so many years, people still love you. So,
Mhm.
there's definitely a market for you guys, and there's definitely
Thank
people that
you.
want to use you, which
Thank you.
I'm not surprised by, but everybody doesn't get that. So it is something. It makes me happy to see that kind of thing, happen for
Yeah.
artists.
Yeah, and
But
it's nice that we're sisters, so we never disbanded.
Right.
We stopped singing together, but we were always together. We love each other very much, and so
yeah,
I feel very blessed that we could still have such a great relationship that we are like, oh, let's go, let's sing a little bit. It's very cute to us. Like it's just like it's so cute. It's so fun. And we're just taking the pressure off and just doing what we love to do. We all have careers and things, but we are making space for this because we feel like the legacy does deserve to be celebrated
hmm
and honored. And so, it's an exciting time.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's a different time in music altogether. 30
Yeah,
years ago, we didn't have streaming, you didn't have social media, you didn't have none
right.
of this stuff. So it's all a different ball game now. Uh,
Yeah, it is.
for you guys, is there any type of pressure at all while you're doing this, shall I say, reunion project?
I, you know, I think a lot of the pressure is off because um, we're kind of doing it again for fun, for the fans, for ourselves, right? And to me, I am a full-time nurse, so I have like my full-time job, and it's creative expression. It's a way of really also thanking God for just allowing us to still be here and have the opportunity to do this. I
hmm
will say, if I had to say a pressure, it would be learning how the industry works today, learning how to use your social media to gather your followers back together. Because you can have social media and the people who follow you, they might be diehard, which is, we have the most amazing fans. But sometimes, like, how do you get out the word that we have a new single? Before it was like your record label would do it, and you'd be on all the radio stations, and so that would kind of gather everybody. So I would say that's probably the maybe the hardest part. But we did a concert in San Diego, and honestly, it was just fun. Like it
It
was, the
was.
pressure was off, and it felt like riding a bike, just getting back out there, singing together. It was
hmm
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. I think that we had a wonderful, wonderful career that we were blessed to have,
Yeah.
accolades and album sales and like all of that. And if I feel any pressure, I think it's just to release music that's worthy of that, worthy of what we did. We don't want to just put stuff out to put it out. We want it to be able to hold up to the standard that, and maybe surpass even the standard that we set for ourselves back in the day. So, but that's a fun pressure. That's like a creative pressure. For me, it is really just fun, and it's just awesome to, get to do interviews like this and chat with
hmm
you and spend extra time with my sisters. So I'm happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now 30 years is a long time. You both, all of you guys still look great. You still look very young.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So let me first say that. But 30 years is a long time to have anything. Um, if I just want to take a moment to go back for people who may not know, out of Eden, let's just say this is their first time ever seeing you guys. So I just want to do a quick synopsis of the start of the group. So from what I understand, Mom had the vision for you
Mhm.
guys to ultimately become singers. You guys started singing behind her, and then eventually met Toby Mac, who then created Goatee Records to then produce you guys and put out your records. Um, am I missing any parts that are
You
big?
got it.
That's
Okay,
it. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Before we got with Goatee Records, we did a lot of dancing for different Christian artists, and that's actually how we met Toby and the guys from DC Talk. So we were dancing for Michael Peace, the Christian rapper. And we would do like talent shows and different things like that. Not, I mean, we weren't homeschooled at this point, but I think it was in large part the vision of our mom, but then
Yeah.
slowly we began to embrace it. And I remember we went to a DC Talk concert and saw the impact that they were having on people like ages 9 to 90. And I remember driving home and just thinking, and we may have even collectively had this conversation, but thinking, okay, God, if you want to use us to have that sort of impact, then our answer is yes.
Hmm. That makes sense. Makes sense. And I will say for me, seeing the group now, is is a good thing to see how you guys have grown and different things like that and hear your sound now. But one of my first introductions to you guys was from the show Moesha.
Oh
Ah,
yeah.
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 So what do you guys remember about filming that episode? And did you notice that you got a lot of fans from that show, I should say?
Yeah, Moesha was so much fun. That was the first time we had been on a TV show. And I don't even know how that came to be, but I just remember getting to talk to Brandy.
Uh,
And, one of the first things she did was she played us her voicemail message, which was Lovely Day.
mm,
And we were, blown away by that because we were already huge fans of Brandy.
right.
Um, and I remember her asking us, why are y'all doing, like, not why are you doing Christian music, but she was kind of wondering, like, why weren't we doing like mainstream music?
Right.
And
Right.
and she came from the church as well, and it was a great opportunity for us to kind of share like our hearts and why we feel like God had called us to minister to our peers and to specifically do gospel music.
Yeah.
um, I remember going back to high school. I think, like the next week or something like that. And everybody was talking about how they saw us on. So I think I gained some fans with the kids in my high school. But again, we didn't have social media for us to know the impact that I think Moesha had. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, the 90s was a special time in music and in TV, period. I always tell people that.
Hmm.
And I don't think you guys were any exception to the rule. So to even see you on there, it just makes sense. And, it's a time period I wish we could put in a capsule and just show
Oh,
oh, for sure.
for
everybody.
sure. It's the best. Like growing up in the 90s, it's just like we were so connected to the music of the 70s and the 80s.
Yes.
All just like came together in this wonderful way with 90s music. It just the fashion, like the vibe, the fun, like we could just have fun, like go outside, be safe, and just yeah, it was a great time. What is interesting though, the show being picked up by Netflix and
Right.
streaming, I do think that we got like exposed to a lot of new people, because
Hmm.
people went back and watched that show for nostalgia's sake with their kids, or just because they're Brandy fans wanted to see what she was about. So
Hmm.
my social media and my phone were blowing up when that happened, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's nice. I didn't, well, I won't say I didn't know necessarily that things like this would happen per se with streaming, but it's nice to see a lot of this stuff happen and stuff you forgot even happened.
Right.
As far as like some of the artists and the performances on some of these shows, and we forget that this was a big promotional tool for artists just to even go on a TV show and perform and do different
Right.
things like this. So it is
Yeah.
nice to see. Now, I do notice that on certain streaming platforms, they have cut the performances as a whole, I guess because of copyright.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
So I did notice that on I think Moesha is on Peacock right now, but it doesn't show the a lot of the performances now.
interesting.
Some of the other shows are doing the same thing, but I guess that's because of money.
Hmm.
I can't blame them though. But just going back in your career, and some of the albums and the music that you guys put out, I've always noticed that you talked about subjects that were real life subjects. Why was that so important for you guys to do instead of just, going to sing a hymn or going to sing something that made people feel good?
That's a really great question. I think that we had a very specific after like we did our first record and that was heavily influenced by Toby. Like he did a lot of writing and really taught us a lot about songwriting. And I think he started us kind of on that trajectory because he was doing like honest music, like with DC Talk. It wasn't all vertical. Like they would talk about how we relate to one another, different things like that. And I think when we saw what our fan base was and we saw what the need was, it
Hmm.
just didn't make sense to give them music that we didn't want to listen to or that wouldn't move us, you know. We had this really unique opportunity of being the same age as our audience and going through the same things as our audience, and it just felt like we would be doing everybody a disservice if we didn't keep it real. I don't think we knew the impact that would have or really the significance. It was just like it just came out of us. It was just very natural for us to write from our hearts.
That's something that I always tell people, no matter what you're doing. I always believe in just being yourself, just being real, as you just said. I personally believe that it comes off far greater than you putting on the act because it's
Yeah,
almost like telling a lie. You have to keep up with the lie later.
right.
So, just watching you guys, I went and did some reading, I went and did some looking, I went and did some listening, and just looking at you all, just listening to you all, I felt like I knew you, but more than anything, I felt that you were authentic in what you were saying.
Mm,
So I know if I felt that, somebody else felt that. So thank you guys for being yourselves. You
mm.
know, that's not always the case when it comes to any kind of group, whether you're singing gospel or R&B or whatever you might sing.
Right.
So thank you for that. I did want to ask, as far as the music was concerned, well, as far as singing was concerned, did you guys notice a change over the years in what it felt and what it meant to be able to sing these songs? And what I mean by that is this. When I started doing these interviews, for instance, I was just doing it like for fun, right? I started doing this when I was 16. I'm only like 17 now. No, I'm just kidding. But I was doing it for fun. You know, I was like, oh my God, this is great. But then I started realizing people started emailing me and saying, I listened to your interview with this person and they said this and I learned that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I have a responsibility in a way.
Hmm.
It made me change my mindset as far as what I was asking, what I was thinking, all of that. Did that same thing happen to you all as your careers progressed and the music started to come along?
I definitely would say absolutely. I think that, like Lisa said, when we were young, we were dealing with teenage things, and as we matured, I think our music matured with us. And I also think that as Lisa, continued to write on subsequent albums, we got to talk about some deeper topics that maybe we didn't discuss when we were younger. I know the song Rolling Stone was one where we first introduced the topic of our parents getting divorced when we were little, and
Hmm.
having a span of time where we didn't have our father in our life, and talking about that reconciliation and how God brought that about. So yeah, I mean, Lisa can probably speak to it a little bit more, just being the writer of the group. But I think that as you listen to our music, you can tell that we matured and really were thoughtful about what we wrote about.
Absolutely. Lisa, I want you to just piggyback on this because I was going to ask about the production and the writing anyways. I noticed your name in the credits a lot more. So why was that even important to you to start doing?
So I've written songs since I was a little girl, like little girl. I wanted to be a doctor, and I wanted to be a songwriter from the time I was 5, and it looks like God picked songwriter, which I'm very grateful for. So it wasn't a forced thing, and I really have to give credit to Goatee
Yeah.
for really allowing me that space and watering that space and providing a really safe place for me to grow as a writer. And I think as I grew as a writer, as we grew as sisters, as our audience grew, the conversation started changing as we got more notoriety. We were able to work with different producers. We were able to spend a little bit more money on our records. So I think we, had this really lovely trajectory of growth.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, in whatever you do, you don't want to be stagnant. So we took some risks and we played around with different genres. We, from techno to uh, uh, disco to,
Hmm.
always hip hop, of course, rock and roll. Like we just had a lot of fun with it. I think we all, listen and love all styles of music.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite memories as a kid growing up was we had a neighbor, this boy named Chase. I was probably 8, 9, something like that. And I would go over to Chase's house and we would listen, to the Thriller album, just on repeat. And that music, the music of the late Quincy Jones, the music of Michael Jackson, really shaped how I think about melodies um, and musicality. And I think it was a blessing to be able to do my best to bring that to life without a
Yeah,
beat.
yeah. It's so important, and people don't understand it. Not everybody can write, so that's for one a gift. But it's so important to be able to just tell your own story, something that you
Yes.
guys have been able to embody and do. So, I'm grateful that you were able to have the gift to even do that.
Praise God.
Um, Andrea, will ask you about the song I Know. So I read an article. So I want you to tell this story if you could, if you remember. I read an article. So
Okay.
you guys received an email from a young lady, and this helped inspire the song. Is that right?
Lisa might know this better than I. I have a terrible memory, so forgive
Same,
me.
same,
Um,
same. We got so many emails, so
Yeah.
many letters, and
yeah.
and it's interesting. So we were so young when we started. Danielle was on the road at 13,
Oh,
and
wow.
people are coming up to us and telling us their life story. Um, and we were not equipped,
Hmm.
naturally to deal with that. But I'm so thankful to the Lord, one, that there was three of us to kind of, what should we do? And we could like have the council of the blind leading the blind together. But we met a lot of fans. We would do altar calls and people would come to know the Lord. And so we didn't know enough. I think we would encourage them to join a local church and everything like that, but we didn't know enough to tell them, you need to get discipled and you need to like, find a mentor to walk you through. So it became us. So
Yeah.
we would have, I mean, I remember spending countless hours on the phone in a counseling capacity that I am not licensed for. Just thank you, Jesus, that, for the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. But just countless hours on the phone. Andrea too, Danielle, like
Mhm.
people writing us letters and us writing back to them in, terrible relationships as a teenager
Hmm.
or facing thoughts of suicide or teenage pregnancy, like really, heavy, heavy topics. Um, and, it just, I feel like Sarah Jane was like a culmination of a lot of that. There
Yeah.
probably was one particular letter or email that I can't remember, but it was all of it. It was all of these stories, coming together in one song.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. And you mentioned Sarah Jane. I was listening to it a couple months ago, and I was just so. I think that you invited people to approach us about really difficult subjects because if you listen to Sarah Jane, like there's a part where you're talking about, a kid that goes missing
Yeah.
because they're out on the streets, and then you repeat that somewhat of that sentiment in I Know. And I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
that because we had such a heart for those who were lost or those who were forgotten, people would email us and talk to us about just really, really deep things that we just felt humbled to even try to help them navigate through. So.
Yeah. It's important to know for one who you are, but to know what you're doing as well. And I think sometimes we don't realize how we can really impact people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sometimes you walk in something one way and you like, oh my God, like, you leave out another way because you really don't know how things will affect people.
right.
Some of them are literally like ready to tell their life story and cry and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
it really is important that you handle it the right way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that
you
we
guys,
make Well, I was just gonna say, I think it's
Uh-huh.
important for everybody. You know, the world is just such a it's so rife with strife and
Yes.
anger and sadness, and you just really don't know the impact of simply smiling. I'm a pretty smiley person, so I don't have to work really hard. But I am just amazed sometimes just walking down the street and smiling at someone, how their entire countenance changes. And
Hmm.
Mhm.
I think it's just important for us to really make space for each other and make space for even the stranger or the person that's, checking us out in the grocery line, just to show kindness, and
Yeah.
just make
Yeah.
a little bit more space for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell people that, it doesn't cost you anything to just be nice.
Hmm.
Right.
That won't always happen, but you don't have to mirror what you see. And I'm
Exactly.
really adamant about that no matter where I go. Even if I walk outside sometimes and just go for a walk in the daytime, I still smile at whoever I see or speak because it's just human decency to me. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
think we need a little bit more of that. Sometimes people forget.
Yes, indeed.
Um, Speaking of that, I only got a few more questions because I know we got to go. Speaking of that, I listened to you guys cover of "You Brought the Sunshine" uh, on the
Oh,
More Than You Know album. Of course, that was originally done by the Clark sisters, but I wanted to say I love you guys' take on that song.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
the songs that you cover, I noticed that you still have your own distinct sound on those. So thank you for not losing the essence of that. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Those were really those are really big shoes to fill. It's like God loves babies and fools, or God
Yes.
protects babies and fools. So I don't think, we were just like, oh, I love this song. Let's do this song. Really big, giant, giant shoes. But it was fun to bring that song to the CCM audience in a
Yes.
different way, and to a younger audience. Yeah, it was a great time. Super high, so high. Oh my
So
God.
high.
Oh man, I can only imagine. So now, for my own curiosity, what parts are you guys normally singing in the harmonies, and are you switching sometimes?
Well, I think we pretty much stay in our. I think God knew that He needed to have to make us with different levels of. I'm a soprano, a
Okay.
little less so as I've aged, but still a soprano. And
Okay.
then Danielle is what'd you call that? It's the tenor
Okay.
of
Hmm.
the group. Yeah,
All right. And Delisa is holding it down in the middle.
she
Alto, yeah,
is.
Okay.
yep.
That makes sense. Lisa, I can just tell by looking at you. Um, Even in your album covers, I can just tell for whatever reason. I noticed that you said you're the oldest in previous interviews, but just looking at you, I can tell that you hold this together a lot. Um, Danielle to me reminds me so much of Ruth Porter. I wanted to tell her this when she was here.
Mm,
She just gives me that edge, that fun, that vibe. That she just gives me that
That's
even
Danielle.
probably Nona Hendrix from LaBelle as well. Like she just
mm.
gives me that kind of vibe. And Andrea, you give me like very soft, very quiet. Sometimes like
Yep.
I can just see that here. Now I might be a little bit wrong, but that's okay.
You're pretty
But
right.
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
Say,
okay.
Yep.
yeah. I'd say you're accurate, but I do think one of the really fun things about this introduction, or us coming back together, is that we have grown a lot, and
Yeah.
we did have these very, very specific roles. And I
Yes.
think the tendency is to maybe fall back into them, but they don't fit anymore because we've just
Mhm.
grown so much. So now we'll be like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Like, where before I was like, this is what we're gonna do. So that's been a lot of fun, just to, experience this version of ourselves as a group.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I just got two more questions and then I gotta let you go.
Okay.
As far as crossing over, there was an article I read about you guys that you were doing previously. I think it was a UK article. But was there ever any regret as far as that type of thing? I know that you guys said before, like we're not willing to just do anything. We're not willing to like take off our clothes or conform to what people may want us to do just to market us. Was there any disappointment, regret, or anything of that sort for you guys as far as crossing over was concerned?
I, what comes to mind for me is we started to do a lot of mainstream shows I remember specifically we did the Jenny Jones show. This was
Yes.
back in the early 2000s. And so we were dipping our toe into more of a mainstream, space. And we went on the Jenny Jones show and we were going to sing Here's My Heart, right? I think it was Here's My Heart.
Mhm.
And very excited about it. This is this is going on all the this is on a major network. And so we're in the green room getting ready to go on, and there was a really questionable segment going on that just really did not align with our values and our and our morals. And we were very conflicted because Here's My Heart is a song about God and our love for God and giving our heart to God. And we really, really struggled with it to the point where we called our pastor and we're like, should we do this? Like, should we go on? This is during the taping. And we just really felt like God was like, no, this is not for you. And I think that's when we realized we were not willing to sacrifice what God had envisioned for our ministry for the bigger spotlight. And there were other opportunities, but that really was kind of where the biggest opportunity that we had to that point, where we had to step back and say, no, this isn't for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything, as they say. So
That's right.
that you guys stuck to your morals and values. One of the last questions I want to ask, when did you guys get to know God for yourself? At what age or what point in your life do you remember? Because I know that mom can make you read things and make you study and do different things. But like, for instance, for me, I always went to church. We didn't have a church home specifically, but when I went to church, I loved being there because I loved to see people catch the spirit. It was fun. Like,
It wasn't
but
scary.
no,
It's
not really.
scary to me.
I was more so intrigued
Mm.
because I was like, it wasn't strange, but it was at the same time. But I was like, oh, all right. I felt like they were getting something, right, that they needed. So
Yeah.
we always went to church over my life. My mom always taught us about God, no matter what. Even if she didn't know but a little bit, she taught us that little bit. But for me, it was when I was 16, when I was in the midst of a depression, that I was willing to, not willing, but my mind told me to commit suicide.
Mm.
And that's where I got to know God at the most, because I had secluded. It told me to go in darkness. It told me to seclude and just be by yourself. You can't go
Mhm.
anywhere. You can't do anything. And that's when I leaned on my faith the most. That's when I found God the most.
Wow.
Was there a specific time in your life where you found out, like, this is where I really know God? This is where I really know that I built a relationship with God now. And
Uh,
this is for both of you, by the way.
so I'll go first. So our mom got saved but right before she had me. And so we grew up in a Christian home,
Yeah.
but not a home without its challenges.
Hmm.
And I remember answering, like walking up to an altar call at the age of 5. And it was as real to me as anything else that I'd ever experienced. And I'm so grateful to God, and I'm grateful to our mom because um I said yes to God, and it's like I meant it and he meant it too,
Hmm.
so we had to go through things and we had to work out our relationship with each other. But I always knew that I was his.
Yeah.
And so even I was just having this conversation in I work at a church, and we do a staff meeting where we're going through this we go through different books and then we break into like kind of huddles, and we were talking about baptism and sharing the ages at which we got baptized. And I was just saying, people, say, oh, you're too early, it's too young, you don't really remember. But there was something about my life that I knew it was marked. So I knew, like, even like if I was going to venture into sin, or even if I was going to, have disappointment or have, go through periods of darkness or depression or something, it was never as far as I imagined it could have gone, because there was
Absolutely.
this restraint
Yeah.
that was holding me. And I really am grateful to the Lord for that. So, walk with the Lord my whole life, but I think in my early 20s, we started going to a different church, and that's when I kind of began to understand things like lordship and,
Mhm.
just really walking in obedience to God. Like he's not just your father, but he's also your Lord, and you need to do what he says. And just the bigger picture of what being a Christian really means.
Yeah. Same question for you, Andrea.
Let me unmute. Thinking, so I do remember when I was in high school. So we were homeschooled until I was in middle school. And
Okay.
then going through high school, I remember just having kind of a crisis of faith, because it's really the time when, you go to school and you don't know if you're the only Christian there, right? And I do remember just saying, like, God, I have to have a relationship with you for myself, and not just something that has always been a part of, like, culturally a part of, my experience. But I will also say that as the years have gone by, after you're in ministry for so long, the burden of, I guess, like, if you're a pastor, right, you're in prayer, you're reading your Bible because you have a message that you have to give, right, on Sunday,
Right.
and things like that. So not having that without a Eden, you can get into your life and kind of, lose that relationship a little bit, because you're not constantly having to pour into yourself to pour out to other people.
Mhm.
And so, it has been, ebbs and flows where you're like, Lord, I really need to renew my relationship with you all the time, because I
Mhm.
have so many friends and acquaintances who have fallen away over the years.
Oh
And you're
yeah.
like, how did that happen? I mean, how do you just kind of go away? And it's not a, for some maybe it's a big decision, but for others it's just you get busy in your life and you maybe don't plug in as much. Which I appreciate the song Meditate, because it reminds me, go back to that child that read their Bible every single day.
Yes.
The thing is the foundations that our mom instilled in us carry us through all these years to where we have never strayed and where we are still, serving God. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people don't realize the relationship with God is like any relationship in life. You have to
Yeah.
Yeah,
nurture it in order for it to keep growing.
that's
Yeah.
right.
I don't think, I tell people this all the time now, whether it's mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin, whoever it is, just because you hold the title doesn't mean that that relationship stays the way that it is or it was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You continuously grow in life just like they are. So you have to keep nurturing that. You have to keep learning each other, keep,
Yeah.
listening, learning, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. I think that's very important for people to know. Um, so 30 years we're celebrating. We
Yeah.
got the new single, Lovely Day 3.0, and then we can expect a new project possibly mid 2025.
Yes.
Okay. That's why I want to just make sure. So, and then all of you guys' albums are on streaming platforms already, along with the new single. Is that right?
Yes, that is
They
right.
are. Yes.
Yep.
Matter of fact, do you guys remember the names? Because I don't remember all of
Let's
the
see. Let's
albums.
see. Let's see. Let's see what we can do. Okay,
Of the
we'll do it
albums.
rapid fire.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'll
Okay.
start.
All right.
Love in the Day.
yeah,
More Than You Know.
No Turning Back.
yeah.
This Is Your Life.
Love, Peace, and Happiness.
And Hymns.
Yes, we did it.
Yay!
Well, ladies, thank you so much. Let everybody know where they can follow you guys on social media and all of that wonderful stuff. Anything else you might need to plug?
Yes, please find us on Instagram. We're Out of Eden Official. And then you can find us on Facebook, Out of Eden.
And
It's our
TikTok.
page.
Yeah,
Oh,
TikTok
yes.
Out of Eden Official.
Yes.
All right, sound good.
Such a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for having
Yes.
me.
Thank you.